Okay, just tell me all that again.
So I actually told my parents, they own a rental property in Southeast Idaho and Idaho Falls. I told them that we got a $400 rent increase on one of our tenants. And my dad's a nice guy. He says he doesn't want to raise rents on anybody, put them in a potentially sticky situation. But I told them they actually asked for a rent increase. They asked for $400 more. They asked for a longer lease, and they were happy about it. So the binder method definitely works.
That's awesome. Thanks. That will be a nice outro.
But not today.
Howdy. Welcome back to Dion Talk. If this is the first time you've been to my channel, one of the reasons that I think I was able to be more helpful in the BiggerPockets community and actually help people find deals on the MLS is I have a strategy that gets the tenants to request a rent increase. I call this the binder strategy. So far on my tenants, it's worked 100% of the time, either on inherited tenants when I buy a property or on existing tenants, like in 2020 and 2021. We had a year with no rent increases and then a year with record rent increases. But what I like to do is bring on other investors who've taken this strategy and used it and share how that went for them. What I have today are my two friends that I met in the BiggerPockets Real Estate Rookie Bootcamp. They were actually unfortunate to get stuck into my cohort, but when we met, I was really hoping that some of the people from those courses would take action, close on deals, and then reach out to me and share how it went. Josh, can you tell me a little bit about yourself, where you're located at?
Yeah, so I'm Josh, live in Sumner, Washington, not too far from Tacoma, where I believe Dion lives. I have a wife and two young kids, and my brother-in-law, Brayden, married my little sister, and he lives not too far.
Awesome. Thank you. And Brayden, a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so as Josh mentioned, I married his sister, and we are owner-occupying the house hack that we bought together. And we currently live in Airway Heights, Washington, which is just west of Spokane. It's in the same Spokane County.
Okay, and where were you living before you got the duplex?
My wife and I were going to school in Southeast Idaho in Rexburg, Idaho, small town just outside of Idaho Falls.
Okay, so it is a house hacked duplex. Where did you find the property?
Actually on the MLS. Josh and I, we were scouring the MLS. We had multiple offers on different properties, and none of them ended up working out. But one morning, Josh went on the MLS and saw this one, and so we had an offer submitted within a few hours.
Okay, and when did you close on the property?
Mid-December, right?
Yeah, middle end of December.
Okay, so Brayden, you're house hacking, and Josh, tell me how it's a partnership, right? How does this structure look for this property? How'd you guys finance it?
Yeah, so I have two small children and a wife, and so unfortunately, she's not game to do the house hacking strategy, which I always wanted to do. We just couldn't find a property that worked out, but started talking to Brayden about the idea of house hacking before he married my little sister, and he loved the idea. And so we decided to go in on it together and start looking for properties. And we just decided to split it 50-50. So we split the down payment 50-50. Obviously, it was owner occupied financing under Brayden and Whitney's name. We just did a joint venture agreement to write it all up with a real estate attorney, helped us with that. While they're living there, they take whatever rent they get from the other unit and they save for CapEx and vacancy, things like that. And then whatever's left over from the mortgage payment, they're in charge of paying for that. We split all the renovations 50-50. And then whenever it comes time for them to move out, we will split the profits 50-50 as well.
I like that you guys used an attorney, especially when dealing with family. I mean, everything is great when it's great. And right now, while everything is great, you guys got an agreement in writing by a professional. I have never used a partner. Someday I might partner on a deal.
Not today.
I'm not much of a people person, so that might not work for me. But I think it's great that you guys figured out a way to do this. So let's talk numbers. And if you be as specific as you want or as vague as you want, but purchase price of the property.
So we bought the property for $365,000.
Okay, so a duplex for $365,000 that you found on the MLS. What were the rents before you moved in?
So one was rented at $1,000 a month, and the other was $600 a month. They were both on month-to-month leases. The former owner didn't like to update leases or sign new ones. So they've been on month to month since they lived here. The one side on that is paying $1,000 has been there for 2.5 years. And the one that we moved into, this side that was renting for $600, they've been there for 5 or 6 years.
So you did a 90-day notice.
Yep.
We intend to occupy. You need to move out. You picked the lower rent.
Of course.
Okay. Did you do the binder strategy right away, or did you wait?
We waited about 2 months. We took your strategy of just kind of vetting out the tenants to make sure we wanted to rent to them. And they've been great tenants so far. So we decided to do the binder method just this past week, actually.
That's like cookie cutter right out of the course of how I would do it. I had the course for how to get rent started one rental at a time by Michael Zuber. I suggest waiting at least 2 months. You find out, do they pay on time? Do you get noise complaints? Do they call you for trivial things? You kind of get that vetting because you didn't get to run their credit, check their evictions, see their credit score. Like you didn't get to do anything to vet that tenant. So those 2 months did that. So you've been there long enough to know you want to keep them. They've been good tenants. Which one of you did the binder strategy?
We were there together, actually.
Okay, so you were there together. Did you use a binder, or how did that physically look when you did it?
I bought a 3-ring binder, and I did exactly what you suggest. I had on the front page a picture of the property and exactly what we spent on it. So a picture of our taken from my iPhone with $365,000 on there, and then the subsequent pages were rental listings in the area, and then each individual property. Then I actually added from the government, the HUD website for fair market rents. I printed that page out and put it on the back. And so it was rental, the picture of the house, how much we paid on it, rental comparisons, and then what the government says is fair market in this county.
The tenant was paying $1,000. What was fair market? What did the government and Rentometer show? What did those sources say the area average rents should be?
So it was kind of over the place. It's a 3-bed, 1-bath on both sides. The average was over 1,400. There was one apartment that kind of brought the numbers down lower, but the rest duplexes were 1,600 up to 1,750 was about the average.
Okay, so if the average was a bit above 1,500, and I find when I'm doing the binder method too, there's usually an apartment or an apartment complex in the area that brings down the average. Call them and find out if they accept self-paying tenants, Section 8 tenants, or low-income tenants. Apartment complexes that accept low-income tenants will often have the rent very low, and it throws off the curve. So your tenants would have to qualify for low income to get that rent. So you can clarify that with them when you're talking to them. So you're both there. You have the conversation. You actually have a 3-ring binder, and hopefully you'll send me a picture and it'll be right there in the video. So if you have it.
It's at their place. I'll get it from the state.
You left it with the tenant?
Yeah.
We did.
That's beautiful. Have I done that? I don't know if I've done it for like 2 days, where I was like, hey, you guys take your time. I'll be back in 2 days because we're fixing something. And I said, we'll finish the conversation then. Literally being transparent, saying, here's my information, Google it, see what you find. How did the conversation go? What rent did the tenant request in that conversation?
So the conversation went really well, actually. This was all happening at the same time. So the tenant that we originally were renting to, she was up by herself with kids, and then her husband wanted to be added onto the lease. I don't know where he was, if he was traveling or he wanted to come back and be added on the lease. And so we just said, hey, we wanted to talk to you about adding you on the lease, and here's this binder. We wanted to present you with this information. Kind of told them all about it. And then they were like, yeah, we kind of figured since you guys are going to be helping us, fix things up, that you're going to be asking for more rent. So we were already talking about, the possibility of that. And they were just saying that like they really like us more than their old landlord and stuff like that. And so we knew it was going to go really well. And then we just kind of left it with them and said, take some time to think about it. We want you guys involved in this process, and just let us know what you guys think is fair on the rent. And then it was, I think, just like a day and a half, maybe 2 days later, they texted us and said, we want $1,400. So
your tenant asked for a 40% rent increase.
Yeah.
And you agreed.
Yeah. Yeah. When we bought the place, when we were running our numbers, we were hoping for $1,500 on each side after renovations. So to get $1,400 without having to do any renovations on that side is amazing. Beautiful.
It's why the strategy works for me. It's not that I don't want to do renovations. It's two things. First, I don't want to displace a tenant if I don't have to. And second, I'm super lazy and I don't want to do the renovations. And if you do the renovations, then you're going to get top rent for the area. I have a unit right now that is vacant because the tenant purchased a house. So I will have a tenant turnover. I will update everything. And then I will get, it was rented at $1,300. I listed it for $2,000 and have a line of people turning in applications. So I will get the right rents now for that place, but I have to do the rehab and I have to get the work done and spend the money and the time. Your tenant doesn't have to move. They were involved in the conversation to raise their rent. So happy tenants don't trash a place. Happy tenants don't leave. Did you, and I'll start with Brayden. In this purchase, what's one takeaway that you think you'd like to share with a new investor?
I think specifically with the binder method is being human. We all have stories, we all have things we're going through. And we could be greedy landlords, and to a point, it's an investment, so we do want to make money on it. But as we involved them in that process, we came to a mutually beneficial agreement where they raised rents. It was happy for us, and they were happy to have a year-long lease. And so we had that conversation, and we were people, friends, neighbors, trying to make something work for both parties. And so it's all about connections and relationships. And so I learned greatly, having a relationship with these people, and with others, whether that be an agent or the lender or whoever it is, having a relationships and being a person, being able to connect with them, can open those doors for you.
I love that, especially when you're house hacking. Like the relationship with somebody that's your neighbor, but you kind of get to pick them, is very important. And Josh, in this purchase, what's something that would be a takeaway for you that you would like to share with new investors?
Well, being it was my first rental property, I think the thing that I would, advice I would give to new investors is just get over the fear and just pull the trigger. Because I'm still scared every day to just thinking about oh man, what if this happens? What if this happens? But you just got to jump in and you just got to put your fear aside. And there's so many resources out there. If you come to something that you don't know how to handle, there's the BiggerPockets forum, and there's so many people like yourself, Dion, that will just be so willing to help. So I think that would be my advice, is just jump in. And that's the only way to get started, is to pull the trigger and buy your first property. So
a quick question to kind of dig in a little bit there. You have these fears, right? What if this happened? What if this happened? What's the biggest, what if this happened that worries you the most?
I think evictions is probably at the top of that list for me. If someone stops paying rent and, we get behind on payments and all that, and having to deal with lawyer fees and all that with evictions would be the top of the list for me.
Okay. I had that same concern when I started, and here was a strategy that I used to kind of make that a lot less stressful. As you're saving money, you said for CapEx, repairs, vacancy, save that until you hit about $1,500. Go and retain an eviction attorney. Just find the attorney in your area, read the reviews, contact them and say, I want to give you a retainer in case anytime in the future I need your services. You might need their services to write a letter saying you're going to be evicted unless you solve this. Tenants respond differently to a letter that comes from an attorney than from you. But just having that attorney retained, and I asked a question I got from my brother. And my brother actually has 10 paid off rentals and retired at 50. So I look to him for guidance sometimes. He contacted his attorney. He specifically asked his attorney, what verbiage would you want on my lease that will make your job easier if we ever have to go through an eviction? So in that case, you would have two things: an attorney on retainer, and in the future, add those words to the lease so that this will be, as much as it's going to suck, as smooth as possible. And then a lot of that stress can come away. And how about you, Brayden? What do you think is the one big fear in doing this purchase that you maybe lose the most sleep over?
I think eviction was up there, but to give another answer, something horribly wrong happened to the property. It burns down. There's, the hot water tank explodes and somebody gets hurt, or there's significant damage to the property. And then being able to have, since we just started, we're still saving. We don't have a lot saved up from, for CapEx and vacancy. We have our own money to put in that we could, but to have a huge expense, unexpected, just randomly hit us because of an emergency.
That's a valid fear. Do you have property insurance?
Yes.
How much is the deductible?
Good question. I should look at that.
So knowing that amount will give you anything significantly more than this. This is the amount of money I'm going to need. When we're brand new, when we're first starting out, some people will add loss of rent coverage to their homeowner's insurance, just in case it does burn down. The other side's not paying rent, but you have homeowner's insurance. Hopefully you did full replacement value of the property, not just the value of the mortgage, because you want to be made whole if there is a problem. So we can't completely eliminate or remove the fears that you both have. Those are both valid fears, but that's how you mitigate that fear. Is here's the steps I would do to plan for an eviction and hope it never happens. Here's what I would do in case there's a big expense we weren't expecting. That's what insurance is for. I hope that helps.
Yes, thanks.
I have one more question I would like to ask. We met in the BiggerPockets Real Estate Rookie Bootcamp. Do you think this deal happened because of that experience? Or how do you think that contributed to you guys getting this deal done? And I'll start with you, Josh.
I think it definitely helped. That rookie boot camp was awesome. Just having, because like you can listen to real estate podcasts and read a book here and there, and it's like constantly in the back of your mind. But to have an actual class that you're accountable, that you have to show up to every week, I guess you wouldn't have to, but I felt obligated to show up to every week, and just have people talking about real estate and have people to ask questions, bounce ideas off of. For that for me really helped to just get the motivation to be constantly looking at properties and have accountability of like, I made this many offers this week. I analyzed this many deals this week. So for me, it was just the accountability thing and being able to, have the courage to take the leap of faith.
Nice. That's actually good to hear. Brayden, any thoughts on the BiggerPockets Real Estate Rookie Bootcamp?
For me, it just gave me the confidence to move forward and pull the trigger, like Josh was saying. I kind of had an idea of what to do, but the boot camp helped me understand how to do what I wanted to do. With all the forums, with all the homework, quote unquote, that we did, it really laid out how I could do these things to make it happen, how I could write an offer, how I, have a vision of my plan and things that we've been doing with renovations and talking to tenants and managing. It helped me understand how to do those things.
I think I agree. The more exposure we have to the skill sets it takes to do this, the more likely we are to actually close on deals because of 4 words. Confidence comes from competence. Every skill that you learned that you became competent at gave you the confidence. Awesome. I'm guaranteeing somebody might have some questions to ask. How did your first deal feel? What were your biggest fears? What was it like to close? Or what was it like to do a partnership for your first deal? If somebody wants to reach out and get a hold of you, Josh, how can they find you?
I think the easiest way is just my email, and that's jpalm.91@gmail.com.
Awesome. And Brayden, how can they get a hold of you?
I'd say the best way would be just reaching out via Facebook. You can look up Brayden Johnson. Just a picture of me in a suit as of now is my profile picture. But reach out on Facebook, send me a message. I'll look at it and get back to you when I can.
Awesome. I appreciate you guys coming on here and sharing this because I think this is information that can help somebody else get over that initial fear and actually start to take action. Until my next video, thanks for coming to my Dion Talk.
We're sorry, the number you have dialed is not in service at this time.